Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Guys, we need to move on to Norway because William and everyone in the royal sphere 100% should be watching Norway right now and watching the entire thing just seemingly disintegrate overnight. It's utterly and completely. I know we've talked a lot about this, but I'm still shocked at how bad it's gotten. Really, truly shocked about how bad it's gone. And it's gotten this on multiple levels. So, just to give you guys a grand overview in case you've missed a couple of these reports or anything like that, we have like a series of scandals going on at the exact same time, and everything hit at the exact same time. And it's kind of encompassing sort of all members of the family. So you have beginning in August, so the son of the crown princess, Mette-Marit, let's see, I will pull up this article here. That is him right here. He is not a royal himself, but he was raised within the royal household and he was arrested for assault. And there were other charges added. And this came the same month as Princess Martha Louise, who, let's get down here a bit because she's pictured. You can actually see her right here with her husband, Shaman Durek Verek. And they got married, and he is a very controversial guy, and the situations around him continue to get worse. He has been alleged to have committed SA against other people and has admitted basically that he is essentially having affairs on her with men because he can't totally resist the dudes. So it's a lot. You also had the king who is much beloved but also very ill, and he is as well with this whole thing. You have the situation where they flitted off to London and that nobody knew for a bit, and the government was head of state because there was a time lag between these things. So much going on. It just doesn't look good. And you have sort of an allegation that Crown Princess Mette-Marit may have concealed evidence in the case of her son. So let's start off with this first story here because this is complex. I usually don't give an overview like that, but you're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of issues at the exact same time. So we will start off here. And so it seems that Mette-Marit, Haakon, and Marius, so Marius is her son, his stepson, went to London last week. This is actually a picture of them in London. I have to say, the kid still gives me a bit of arrogance there in that look. And he is facing multiple charges. He has been actually arrested twice now. In addition to his initial arrest, he was arrested later for violating a restraining order. It's not clear why they were in London. And sort of the issue that has seemed to come up again and again is that neither Marius himself nor his parents seem to be taking this assault allegation very seriously. And there was thoughts that maybe this trip to London was about getting him to a rehab facility because he struggles with substance abuse issues, including alcohol, cocaine, and marijuana, or at least were the substances found in his system when he committed the alleged assault in August. And so they went to London. But the thing is that either they didn't tell someone or somehow something went awry. There's like a weird kind of time lapse in this situation. So, Crown Prince Haakon, who is usually very hardworking, canceled an official mission sometime last week. And the king had been traveling until Thursday and resumed his duties on Friday. So, what that means is when the king is gone, and this is the same in any country, there is usually a regent put in place instead. So it's either the spouse of the monarch, or if they're traveling too, it's the child or another relative within the family. And so Crown Princess Mette-Marit did hold a lunch for state administrators on Thursday. And this is after she had been struggling with chronic pulmonary fibrosis. She had gone through a new treatment, and apparently she was struggling with that. And so the public was told via the palace's communications manager that the crown prince was prevented from attending due to private reasons. Well, the private reasons, as it turns out, was that he was in London. And so they were notified of the crown prince's trip abroad Thursday morning. The king was back in the country Thursday evening. Thus, the government, this is key, was regent from Thursday afternoon till Thursday evening. Now, that might not seem very consequential, but when it comes to the running of the country and everything, you want to know what's going on behind the scenes. You want to know who's in charge of the country. And although the head of state is more of a ceremonial role, your head of state is also very important. So that your head of state was essentially vacant because Haakon was in London and Harold was still traveling. It's just like everybody's like, what? And they include this as well. It says it was not disclosed until Friday. And historian Trond Noren Isksen said, we have a right to know who governs us. I think that's true. You have the right to know. If the king and crown prince are both out of the country and you don't really have a backup because Princess Ingrid Alexandra is in military training up north, then you should let people know that there was this secrecy around it doesn't help matters. My thing is with this whole Norwegian thing is because everything has seemingly blown up, they need to work even harder at making sure they keep up appearances correctly. Because right now you're under a microscope. And another time this would be just fine. Hey, you have to go out. You were trying to find something in London. I don't know, and your father was still traveling, but it would only be like 6 hours, it's fine. Everybody would get over it. The problem is that they didn't tell anybody till Friday. And so it looks like you're trying to conceal things. And right now you have a problem with concealing things, information about especially the Marius case. The crown prince couple especially are under a massive microscope right now. You don't need blunders like this. This is a blunder. This is 100% a blunder. So the likely reason for the cancellation is kind of unknown, just that he was in London. And so he was aboard a flight at 1 p.m. apparently, and he went with Marius. It's unknown why. It's unknown what they did. And it's kind of understandable. So I think people were hoping that he was going there to start rehab, but obviously he came back with them. So that wasn't the case. Maybe they toured a rehab facility or something like that. But Marius's lawyer said it has been a tough and difficult weeks for everyone, which has made it difficult for him to focus on his own problems. Well, sometimes you have distractions in life and you need to, it's on you to focus. It's on you to focus. Now we shall get back to this story because, oh, this is a doozy. But let's go on because, again, looking at the whole Marius situation, Mette-Marit is coming under an increased microscope for her behavior as a mother. So, oops. Let me change the screen I'm looking at because I wanted to make sure I leave that other story for later. So here we go. It says notified Mette-Marit of mistreatment. So this is regarding one of his ex-girlfriends. So it says ex-boyfriends here. Sometimes with the translations, it confuses the sexes, but it's ex-girlfriends. And so Julian, who was one of his ex-girlfriends from 2018 to 2022, shared some of the issues she was having with Marius to Mette-Marit. So she sent a message to Mette-Marit in January 2023 in which she warned about the alleged Høiby problems with aggression and violence against her. So she was trying to let Mette-Marit know that, hey, this was a problem, and she didn't really get any response. So it says the newspaper writes that there's been documentations about practical and financial matters. And her lawyer says, I can confirm that my client contacted the crown prince couple and that her message is correctly reproduced here. She experienced that they did not follow it up. So again, you have another instance where it seems like they knew he was having problems and they didn't do anything. They just seemingly didn't do anything. And what's crazy is that this, of course, was going to blow up at some point. Some of these things, they're always going to blow up. They are always going to blow up. You can't ignore it forever. And that seems to be what they were kind of sort of doing, is just kind of waiting for it to sort of blow over or for him to get over it or something. But it clearly wasn't working. And they were aware of this for quite a while. And then you get this other aspect of the story. And this is regarding a SIM card, which might not seem very important. And I sort of missed this, I think, in my episode I did last week. So the story is that the police had contacted the Crown Prince couple and told them that they were going to arrest Marius. So Crown Princess Mette-Marit lives here and her son lives here. This is all part of the same estate. So Mette-Marit went over and was helping to organize or sort of clean up her son's home before his arrest while he was taking a shower, apparently. And this is really, really key. And I think even shows that maybe even her own son is throwing her under the bus. So it says who removed the SIM card. So what happened was that he had a SIM card in his phone initially, and then he went home, like when he initially talked to police or something, he went home, he came back and somehow his SIM card was missing. So it says who removed the SIM card is unknown, and the castle refuses to answer the question. Marius is said to have explained, according to NRK. So this is the more established and you could say professional news outlet in Norway. I tend to go with CO Korg, which is called See and Hear. I do that because sometimes they will cover the stories that mainstream outlets won't, because the mainstream outlets want to keep their connections to the royal family, whereas CO Korg is like, no, 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 we're going to go with this story. So that's why sometimes I go here. And it says that the SIM card was in place earlier in the day and that he showered while mom Mette-Marit cleaned. When he was arrested a half hour later, the SIM card had been removed. So what is this telling us? Essentially that they're basically placing the blame on Mette-Marit for stealing his SIM card or taking it out of his phone to conceal evidence, potential evidence. It's a bad look. It's a really, really bad look. And it's so incredibly dangerous. It's so incredibly dangerous. And that might not have been her. That might have been somebody else. I don't know. It might have been Marius himself, and he's just throwing his mom under the bus. But I think the fact that he might be even throwing his own mother under the bus or calling into question the veracity of her potential testimony and stuff like that, I just find very distasteful. And this is just Norway needs to figure out how to deal with this. The palace is like, well, this is a criminal investigation. We're not going to talk about it. And they keep going over all these things. And I get it. It is a criminal case. They need to let it play out in court. But it's getting to the point where it's obvious that the family knew about his behavior. The family did nothing to address it. Perhaps they actively tried to cover it up or seem to have covered it up because it was sort of making the rounds in some of the sort of lower news sources, but wasn't hitting the main press until it's like too big to ignore. And they didn't do anything. And so they look complicit. Their parenting looks bad. I'm like, I can't say neither here nor there if it's good or not, but it definitely sounds like, as Paz says right here, she's enabling him. I think she is. From what all I can see, that just seems to be the thing that she's doing here. And it's just crazy. This is just absolutely crazy to me. I'm having a hard time wrapping around like, oh my gosh, because they've already lost about 20 plus points in terms of popularity. They used to be up in the 80s. Now they're down in the 60s. If they took another popularity poll, I think they will find that the numbers have decreased even more. Norway is a very new monarchy, only established in the early 20th century, if I remember correctly. And it's on this like such a balance here and just so incredibly close to, I think people are questioning, especially because you can't have the king abdicate and take the scandal with him because the scandal is infecting everyone now. The scandal is infecting everyone. So everyone is in part of it. So it's just something that cannot be ignored. So before we get to the direct Varek stuff, because oh boy, I'm teasing it, guys, but seriously, it's lots of questioning of not only Crown Prince Haakon and Mette-Marit's parenting, but now we have huge questions about King Harold and Queen Sonia's parenting. Although obviously their daughter is well into adulthood now. Her choice in partner, not good, not good. So let's go over to this story here real quick. And again, this is about kind of the government's or the people's right to know. The public, was not notified that the government was ruling the country. And this might seem small, but it's a big deal. I actually haven't looked too much into this piece, so let's go over here. And, we have a right to know who's governing us. So the prime minister has previously confirmed that they were notified of the crown prince's trip abroad by telephone on Thursday morning. So the crown prince informed them just Thursday morning that they would essentially be head of state of the country because the king wasn't back until Thursday evening. So there was some sort of blip where neither the king nor the crown prince were available. And it's unclear why Crown Prince Haakon had to make this trip last minute. I also think too that the thing about King Harold's trip that you have to remember and why I'm like, I sort of wonder where he went is that last time he made a big trip, he went to Malaysia, had massive heart issues, had to be medevaced home. So they had to get a medical airplane to fly him home. Never a good thing. And it's like wondering, like, why are you going to this country that doesn't have this medical care, can't get you back easily? Raises a lot of bad questions about potentially just a lack of forethought to resources, his age. He's in his late 80s now. So again, so the king was back in country on Thursday evening. Thus, it was the government that was regent from Thursday afternoon until Thursday evening, but it was not disclosed until Friday. So we've covered that again, but let's see if there's a couple more quotes. So he points out, this historian, that the Danish royal website states who is regent at any given time, and it's clear that Norway should have a similar system. And this is a quote. This is how they do quotes. He says the only opportunity the public has to see if the crown prince is regent is on the official program. I have long felt that that is not enough. In Denmark, this is clearly stated, while in Norway, we do not have access to that information. It may have been done for the sake of their privacy, but is by no means a private matter. We have the right to know who governs us, and that information should be easily available. And I feel like some of this is coming from all the chaos going on within the royal family already. Once you're somebody that people are starting to really question, everything comes into question. And that's, I think, 100% what is happening here. So, according to normal procedure, the state flag was raised at the palace during the period when both the king and the crown prince were abroad. Yes, that's the way you see it, but people don't understand that. It is also difficult to tell the difference between the flags. It should be on their website because it's simply something people have the right to know. And people are wanting the right to know because the royal family hasn't given them exactly, you could say, what they want or what they need in terms of the right to know. Thank you so much, guys, for checking out this bit of the Crown Report. As a reminder, we do these live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we go over all the major royal news stories of the day. And we do have a part two to this Norwegian story encompassing the marriage and controversial relationship between Princess Martha Louise, the daughter of King Harold, and her now husband, Shaman Durek Verek, and some pretty salacious revelations that he's recently given about how he treats some of the clients he does as a man of faith healing. I'm not entirely sure what it is that he does. So, guys, stay tuned for that coming up tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye.